All right, guys, I'm going to give you kind of a real quick overview of how to mount this universal rib mount from Meadow Creek Mounts onto the vent rib of your shotgun. This is my Stoeger M3020. As you can see on the top, it is not drilled and tapped for a scope mount. So rather than pay to have it drilled and tapped, I picked this up for about 50 bucks online shipped, and I'm gonna mount a red dot right here on top of this vent rib. Here's the red dot that I'm gonna be mounting. It is a Hawk Reflex red dot. You can see it's pretty well used. It has been in the turkey woods the last couple of years with me on my 410. Meadow Creek now offers a base that will fit this red dot. After I spoke with them on the phone, they were very helpful, helped me pick out exactly the right one that I needed, and even sent me a couple extra long screws to make sure that it would fit this red dot. I'm gonna try to film this two ways. One is gonna be directly from my GoPro, and I'll try to show you guys exactly what I'm doing with my hands, and then I'll give you a top-down view here from my cell phone camera, actually. I just didn't wanna bother setting up the full-size thing. So the first thing I'm gonna do is pull out these rib adapters and see which one fits my shotgun. The Stoegers have a really thin rail, so I want to look for the smallest one here and start with that one. Oh look, they are numbered for me. Here's a 1, here's a 0. The 0 did not fit. Yeah, I cannot even force that on there. So it looks like I'll be using the 1. I'm gonna try to mount it to this furthest back little vent in this vent rib and get it as close to my eye as possible. So place the selected rib adapter into the slot on the bottom of the mount. Note the direction your red dot will be placed in relation to the tapped holes on the plate. Got it. Place the assembly on top of the rib and slide one of the bottom plates under the rib. Got it. One of these two. It looks like this one here has a cutout. You can see there's a cutout there. I imagine that's so that you can slide this further forward in this rib if you needed to, or you had smaller ribs than the Stoeger has. It looks like the Stoeger has wide enough ribs that I will get completely flat mounting, so a flat section right here to place this plate directly on top of, so it's not gonna be riding one of the curved edges at all. They recommend using a small amount of Loctite, and rather than making you go out and find your own, they ship it with a little tube of Loctite. That's very helpful. Very normal Allen keys here. And it says you can torque them to 12 inch-pounds max. So I do have an inch-pound torque tool. I'm gonna probably end up using that, but for right now, I'm gonna get them all finger tight with this. If you get them finger tight and then give them a little snug with Loctite, you're gonna be really close to 12 inch-pounds. That is not a lot of pressure. You definitely don't wanna strip this small plate out. There's only 2 or 3 threads in each of these holes to even get contact with your screw. So far, just with the packaging and everything they provide you with, I'm super impressed. Just a little bit will do on one side of those threads and it'll smooth itself around as I screw them in. The stuff is a little bit of a mess, so try to keep it all in one place. Get a cap on that, and I'm gonna go get my torque wrench. So, because I don't have a bit small enough to use this torque wrench, I'm just gonna finger tighten it and try to be careful. Like I said, 12 inch-pounds is not very much. So you really run the risk of over tightening these rather than under tightening. Meadow Creek was really thinking when they put this machining part in here, because this has this machined out trough that will fit this vent rail, it's already centered up on the mount, and I don't have to bother with a micrometer and get it centered perfect over this vent rib. When I get this thing screwed on, it's gonna fit right in the center. All right, let's find that thread. Got it, first try. Perfect. Should be pretty well lined up now. When I'm screwing these down, I'm just going around and doing the star method like you'd put on a tire. All right, so now that my 2 mounting screws for the red dot are prepped with Loctite, I put quite a bit on there. Some of it will bleed through and end up sitting on top of this mount face. And actually, I don't mind that. I might even put a little dot right in the middle just to give it something to provide a little more of a bond between the two. That thing is on there solid. I ended up going with the screws that Meadow Creek sent with this mount instead of the screws that were on the Hawk red dot. So I really appreciate them sending those out. And these are also gonna be 12 foot-pounds, but just like I did with the mount itself, I'm not gonna be able to actually use my torque wrench. I'm just using this. So when I get it finger tight, I'm using the skinny end because I have less leverage on there. I really don't want to strip these screws because it ruins the whole thing. So I'm just using the thin side so I get less leverage. I'm getting it thumb pressure tight. When I feel it start biting into my thumb and start to have a little resistance, I stop. Then I come over, get a lot of leverage on here and just give it a little tug just to snug it. And I'm really trying not to over tighten this. So I'm just using my ring finger to push into this wrench. I have a really bad habit of cranking things down and either stripping out the screw in the threads or stripping out the Allen key in the screw. So to avoid that, just snug, finger snug, and that thing fits up there really good. It rides a little far forward on the mount and it overhangs on the back just a little bit. I'm not worried about that. It looks great. So the mount is centered on the rib. One thing to keep in mind is these vent rib shotgun barrels sometimes have a little play in how they match up to the receiver. So it may not be perfectly lined on the vertical axis. It might actually be pointing one way or the, leaning rather, one way or the other on the receiver. So when you get this shoulder mounted and look down that receiver, if this red dot is leaning one way or another, it's probably either an issue with your mounting screws, maybe you got it lopsided, or it's just this barrel not seated in the receiver straight on the vertical axis. As long as this is solid, if you sight this in to where the pattern is impacting, even if it doesn't look quite right on the gun, it's gonna shoot there every time. For my own OCD, this has to be as close to perfect as possible. And the way it looks right now, it looks pretty solid. So I'm gonna monkey around with the red dot for a little bit and get it centered up just on top of the bead at the end of my shotgun. And then I'll take it outside and pattern it with some trap loads and get my turkey load sighted in here this weekend. So I hope this little video was helpful and gave you guys a better idea of what you're getting into when you get one of these Meadow Creek mounts. Again, I bought this mount with my own money, so this is not necessarily an endorsement for them. If anything goes wrong with this throughout the season, I'll definitely post a video on that as well. But they were extremely helpful over the phone. Customer service was great. And this thing shipped to my house within about 3 days of me ordering it online. So all in all, I'm pretty pleased with it so far. So as always, guys, I appreciate your time. Thanks for watching, and God bless.